G'day, I'm Brett Ogle and I'm here at the National Golf Course, and welcome to Golf for Dummies. During my 16-year golf career, I can proudly say that I've won 13 championship titles throughout Australia, Europe and America collectively. I was introduced to golf when I was 12 years old, and after 16 months of play, I'd managed to reduce my handicap from 32 to 1. Hopefully by the conclusion of this program, you'll be able to achieve the same results, or at least reduce your handicap significantly. In this program, I cover all the basics of golf, from using the right equipment and, of course, getting the feel for your best grip, stance and swing. Not only do I show you these mistakes, but I also show you how to correct your form along the way. As with all For Dummies programs, the following icons appear throughout the program to help you get the most out of your game. The jargon alert gives you a plain English explanation of important golf terminology. The tip icon highlights helpful hints about the game, and the remember icon keeps you on track and focused. Wear comfortable clothing that will not restrict your swing. Clubs. Keep some clubs by your side to practice with. Move furniture. Rearrange your furniture to avoid breakages. Now if you're ready, let's get started. Whilst there are some theories that golf may have originated in Holland in the late 13th century, it's generally accepted that Scotland is the home and birthplace of golf. The name golf may have derived from the old Scots verb to goaf, meaning to strike hard. The earliest known detail in the subject of golf is a decree written in 1457 from Scotland's King James II, who demanded that football and golf were forbidden. The king was concerned that his citizens were so involved in leisurely pursuits that they were neglecting the royal and vital sport of archery, which would protect him from his enemies. It took until 1502, in the reign of King James IV, and a treaty of perpetual peace with England's King Henry VII, before the Scots were allowed to spare the time on such pursuits. Thankfully, these days, banning golf isn't high on many government agendas. One of the true beauties of the game is that golf, or some form thereof, driving range, mini golf, can be played by people of all levels of ability and ages. Tiger Woods began when he was 2, while Sir Donald Bradman played into his 90s. When it comes to choosing your equipment, in basic terms, all you need to play golf are some clubs and some balls. Now, many golfers prefer to wear a glove on their non-dominant hand so the club doesn't slip, and some courses require that you wear certain attire and golf shoes. In terms of simply playing golf, clubs and balls are the bare essentials. Steel shafts, graphite shafts, which are a lot more expensive but lighter to use, big-headed golf clubs, cavity-back golf clubs. These are just a few of the clubs that you can choose from. So how do you know which clubs work best for you? Simply by trying them out. This area is called the shaft of the golf club. Now, when choosing your clubs, you need to consider your height, build and strength. Your local pro will assist you in choosing the right equipment. For example, if you're tall, just like me, you probably need longer and stiffer shafts. Now, if you hear a loud swish noise when you swing your club and your shaft bends like a David Beckham goal, you need a stiff shaft. If your swing makes no noise at all, you need a regular shaft, and anyone in between needs a medium to stiff shaft. Loft typically refers to the flight of the ball, or the angle of the club face in relation to the ground. In other words, the more angled a club face, the more loft or height you can achieve with your ball flight. Because of their angle, lofted clubs tend to make contact with the ball a lot easier for you to achieve. Now, the shorter the club, the more loft or elevation you will get. You also need to consider the size of the club head. Now, today you can get standard, mid-size and oversized clubs. I recommend that you get the bigger club heads for the early days of golfing, as they are much more forgiving. Now, from my experience, start off by using a putter and a few short irons. After all, in the early stages of your golfing career, learning how to make decent contact with the ball is definitely more important than being able to hit the ball a country mile. Distance should be the least of your concerns at this stage of the game. You must choose the irons that are best suited to your swing. Forged or muscle back clubs are good for players who hit the ball on the club face precisely. Cavity back club, which is a hollowed out at the back of the iron, are for those who hit the ball all over the club face. All golfers, young or old, male or female, professional or amateur, need to use equipment appropriate for their body types and physical conditions. Being in the experimental stage of your career, it's a waste of time and money to make an investment in clubs prior to knowing what feels comfortable and what is right for your game. Elements to consider when buying your clubs include: how do your hands feel around the club? Grips that are too thin encourage too much hand action. Conversely, Grips that are too thick restrict your hands too much. The length and stiffness of the shaft. Now obviously taller players need longer shafts. Ideal shaft flex depends upon the amount of club head speed you generate in your swing. The faster the swing, the stiffer the shaft needs to be. While steel shafts are the cheapest and probably easiest to control in terms of direction, you may prefer the lighter feel of graphite. Of all the elements involved in buying your clubs, choosing the size of the club head is probably the most important. Many clubs come in standard, mid-size and oversize. Oversized club heads should be the preferred option for the beginner. As a beginner, the style of the iron that should be used most is the cavity-backed iron. It's the only way to go. Just take my word for it. However, as you become more advanced, you'll definitely want to consider some more options, like blades for instance. For the seriously good golfer, trying to decide what kind of golf ball to use during a game of golf can be a matter of life-changing decisions. However, at the beginner's level, it makes little difference. Whilst I would definitely advise away from hitting a ballada or any other soft-core golf ball, which are firstly more expensive and secondly much less durable, your ball is not the most crucial element of beginning in golf. Anybody who tells you otherwise is putting the cart before the horse. Tees are important for the novice golfer. Be sure to buy a packet of tees before playing golf for the first time. The game is hard enough as it is. Don't make it any harder than it needs to be by playing without a tee. Whilst golf doesn't appear to be the most physically taxing of sports, as with any other sport, perhaps other than darts, it's critical to stretch and warm up prior to playing. Many muscles, particularly those around your back, are utilised in the golf swing. A regular stretching regimen will help to keep your swing smooth and help to prevent pulled muscles. Warming up even before hitting range balls is fundamental to good golf. Just 5 to 10 minutes of stretching can help to avoid pulled muscles or even more serious injury. Why should you warm up? Doing so works to decrease your risk of injury, increase your heartbeat, loosen your muscles, improve your overall flexibility, stimulate your nervous system, improve your blood supply. A thorough stretching and warm-up routine also enhances your performance by stimulating your muscle memory, improving your swing mechanics, aiding your balance coordination and consistency, reducing tension and promoting an inner calm. The following stretches will assist you in warming up before a game. Now, with your arm straight out in front of you and your palm facing up, gently pull your fingers down towards your side with your other hand. Don't let your shoulder rise up to do this. You should feel a comfortable stretch on the inside of your forearm. Hold for 10 seconds and then relax and repeat. Now turn your hand over so your palm is face down. Make a fist and slowly pull your wrist down with your other hand. Don't let your shoulder rise up as you do this either. You should feel a stretch on the top of your wrist and on the outside of your forearm. Now, bend one arm over your shoulder and bend your other arm behind your back. Hold a towel or a golf club between your hands and behind your back. Slowly pull the club up with your top hand until you feel a stretch in the shoulder of your lower arm. Keep the bottom arm relaxed, hold this stretch for 10 seconds and then pull the club down with the bottom hand until you feel a stretch in the shoulder of your upper arm. Change hand positions and repeat. Lay your left hand on top of your right shoulder and gently pull your left elbow across your body towards your right shoulder. You should feel a stretch across the back of your left shoulder. Change sides and repeat. Whilst holding a golf club, keep both feet still, twist gently at your hips, pelvis and spine. Lying on your stomach, place your hands beneath your shoulders. Slowly perform a push-up, using your arms, but let your back relax and try to keep your hips on the floor. If you experience any pain during this exercise, stop immediately and consult your physician. Lying on your back, bend your knees and cross your right leg over the top of your bent left leg. While keeping your shoulders on the floor, use the weight of your right leg to pull your left knee towards your right side. You should feel a stretch in the outside of your left hip and in your lower back. Following these few warm-up tips may take some strokes off your game, but the most important thing is to be healthy and safe and to enjoy your round of golf. Given that you're watching this program, you've no doubt decided that it's a good aid in readying yourself for a career as a golf star. Keep in mind, however, that along with this program, you can enhance what you know about the game of golf any number of other ways. There are literally hundreds of books on golf instruction written by some of the golf's all-time greats, including Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, Tiger Woods, and of course Greg Norman. But ultimately, you can only teach yourself so much via a book. This is the pathway for many people when they first dabble in golf. Whilst friends may be great people and have great intentions, unfortunately the harsh reality is that not many of them are great golfers. First impressions last. The more swing faults you develop in the infancy stage of your golfing career, the harder it'll be for you to rectify the issue down the track. Trial and error at the driving range and on the putting green can be a great way to get a feel for how the ball reacts when you strike it in various manners. However, just like learning from your friends, it's easy to develop swing faults without having the right guidance. Taking lessons from a pro is definitely the most expensive way to learn the game, but also the most effective and efficient. All golf professionals can get you started on the right track. The key to having or committing to golf lessons is that it's a relatively slow process. You won't turn from an average hacker into a single-figure handicapper within one lesson. The keys to improving your golf game are patience, practice, and persistence. Improvement won't happen overnight, but believe me, it will happen. Whilst the art of literally gripping the golf club has little or no appeal, it may be the single most important thing you do in a round of golf. If you don't hold the golf club in the correct manner, chances are the rest of your game won't be any good. Without having a solid grip, the rest of your golf swing will collapse. Your grip has a couple of key checkpoints. First is the relationship between your left thumb and your left index finger when placed on the shaft, assuming that you're a right-hander, of course. A gap of about 2 centimetres between your thumb and index finger is pretty good. To get that gap, you have to extend your thumb a little down the shaft. If extending your thumb proves too uncomfortable, pull your thumb in towards your hand. 2 centimetres is only a guide, so you do have some leeway. Check to see that the club shaft runs across the base of your last 3 fingers and through the middle of your index finger. Your placement is important. If you grip the club too much in your palm, you hinder the ability to hinge your wrist and use your hands effectively in the swing. More of a finger grip makes cocking your wrist on the backswing, hitting the ball and then recocking your wrist on the follow-through much easier to do. Just be sure that the V form between your thumb and forefinger points towards your right ear. At this point, you have your left hand on the club. You then place your right hand on the club in one of 2 commonly accepted ways. The Varden grip is certainly the most popular grip among better players. Varden was the first to replace the little finger of his right hand over the gap between the index and next finger of the left as a prelude to completing his grip. Varden was also the first to put his left thumb on the top of the shaft. Previously, everybody had their left thumbs wrapped around the grip as if they were holding a baseball bat. Try the Varden grip. Close your right hand over the front of the shaft so that the V formed between your thumb and forefinger points to your right ear. The fleshy pad of the base of your right thumb should fit snugly over your left thumb. You should get a feeling of togetherness, with your hands working as one single unit. This grip is very popular. Probably 90% of PGA Tour players use the Varden grip. Now, the interlocking grip is really a variation of the Varden grip. The difference is that your little finger of your left hand and the index finger of your right actually hook together. Everything else is the same. You might find this grip more comfortable if you have small hands. Jack Nicklaus, possibly the game's greatest ever, uses this grip for that reason. Tiger Woods, another pretty decent player you might say, he also uses the interlocking grip. In Tiger's case, although he has large hands, he learned the interlocking grip as a child, and to this day it remains the grip he's more comfortable with. Many of the top women players like Kari Webb use this grip too. Many golf tournaments are won by players who use the Varden grip. Similarly, many tournaments are won by players who use the interlocking grip. The key is to use the grip that's most comfortable and works best for you. A writer once asked golfing legend Slammin' Sammy Snead what was the most common flaw he's seen among the tens of thousands of amateurs he'd seen over his long career. He didn't hesitate for a second. It's the grip, no question, Sam said. Most folks, if they gripped a knife and fork as badly as they gripped a golf club, they'd starve to death. It's a funny thing, but you hardly ever see a bad player with a good grip or a good player with a bad grip. Of the two primary considerations in golf, which are distance and direction, direction is by far the more important. One of the most common mistakes in golf is aiming the club face and/or aligning the body incorrectly. Aiming and setting up to the ball without correct body alignment is complicated, since it involves the club face, your eyes, shoulders, hips, knees and feet. If you have any one element misaligned to the target, you'll either have to compensate with your swing or understand that your shot will likely be offline. In commencing your alignment, first, align your club face to the target, followed by your body. It's also crucial to understand that your club face must be aimed directly at the starting point, but your body must be aligned to a point parallel left of the target, for right-handed golfers of course. Or in the case of a fade slice or a draw hook, your body must be in line with where you want the shot to begin before it curves back to the ultimate target. A slice is when you move the ball sharply from left to right, but a fade is when you move the ball from left to right in a controlled manner. And a hook is when you move the ball sharply from right to left, but a draw is when you move the ball from right to left in a controlled manner. Here's an exercise that's helpful when you're trying to understand the fundamentals of proper aiming and alignment. If you're hitting a straight shot, place your club on the ground pointing towards your target. Stand with your feet, hips and shoulders parallel to the club. If you position both shoulders correctly, you'll find it almost anatomically impossible to misalign the trail shoulder, which is the right shoulder for right-handed golfers. When your shoulders are aligned properly, you'll find it much easier to align your hips, knees and feet as well. The position of your shoulders at address is also very important because your body instinctively tries to return to the address position at impact. Therefore, the swing path of both your arms and the club is determined to a large degree by the alignment of your shoulders. Keep in mind, when it comes to the role of your eyes in proper aim and alignment, that very often you may address the ball properly, but work out of position by lifting your head rather than rotating it to look at the target. When you lift your head, you have a tendency to rotate your trail shoulder, which in turn misaligns your shoulders. So, to ensure that you remain in a correct address position, rotate, don't lift your head to look at the target. Of all the elements that go into the proper aim and alignment, actually aiming the club face is probably the easiest, as long as you follow a routine. Aiming at a spot a half a metre away is much easier than aiming at a target 200 metres or more away. For that reason, the first step towards correctly aiming the club face is to develop a pre-shot routine that allows you to aim the club and then align your body to the target. Now, begin your shot by standing behind the ball and visualising the shot you want to play. Then use your eyes to track a line from the target back to your ball, picking out a spot on that line half a metre in front of your ball. Once you have visualised the shot and picked an intermediate target, approach the ball and set the club head down behind it, ensuring that you've aimed the club at the intermediate target. Only after you've done this should you take your stance and align your body to the target. For example, the great Lee Trevino. He plays from a relatively open address position in which he is aimed slightly to the left, whereas Arnold Palmer favoured a slightly closed position in which he was aimed slightly to the right. Why? Trevino prefers to fade the ball from left to right, while Palmer, well, he favours a draw, which is from right to left. It's important to note, however, that both men have enough talent to either fade or draw the ball at will. Poor alignment is the single most destructive area for players of all levels when it comes to taking the game from the practice range to the golf course. So as a beginner, getting your alignment right is extremely important. Don't put it on the back burner of your learning priorities. Hitting a golf ball is an athletic exercise that has many things in common with other sports. In golf, it's important to have a pre-shot routine that allows you to stay in motion, since doing so helps keep tension from creeping into your swing. This is particularly crucial in golf, since hitting a golf ball is an active process as opposed to a reactive one. In other words, you're the only one who can decide when to begin your swing, unlike, say, a batsman in cricket who reacts to the bowler. Your beginning or address position should provide both stability and strength, meaning that your position should be an athletic one. Your knees should be comfortably bent and should remain in that same flex throughout your swing. For most shots, your weight should be evenly balanced between both feet, although some professionals prefer more weight on the back foot for longer clubs versus on the front foot for the shorter clubs. Develop a pre-shot routine that you'll use before every swing. Jack Nicklaus was once timed at a tournament, and over the 4 days, approximately 270 shots, his pre-shot routine always ranged between 14.3 and 15.2 seconds from the time he set up to the time he struck the ball. You can't be Jack Nicklaus, but you can become more consistent, and consistency in a pre-shot routine will only help to take your mind off the imposing task at hand. Hitting a skinny fairway off the first tee with your boss watching, for example, and let your body do the work. Now we get to what most people regard as the most glamorous part of the game, the full swing. But before we go any further, let me make one thing quite clear. There is no such thing as the perfect golf swing. What is important to remember is that no one swing is ideal for everyone. On any given Sunday, watch a PGA Tour event and you'll see as many different swings as there are players. And don't forget that Jim Furyk, with that big hitch in his swing, won the 2003 US Open. The truth is that you could find a technical flaw in the swing of virtually every member of the World Golf Hall of Fame, but they were still all magnificent champions. Everyone is unique with strengths and weaknesses and varying physical characteristics. The swing that best fits your body type, temperament and innate athletic ability will, in the end, be the best for you. My job here is to help you find that swing. Learning how to hit for distance and then for accuracy is backwards. Ultimately, your accuracy will create your distance. To produce a consistent, controlled swing, you have to master your balance. Like most other sports, balance begins with solid footwork. A solid stance complements the rotation of your upper body and the swinging of your arms. It also helps to ensure that the club strikes the ball with the correct direction and angle of approach. Flexing your knees is also essential in a controlled swing. The constant flex allows for your proper weight transference. The roll of your legs is also essential, but it doesn't account for the bulk of the power in your swing. The bulk comes from the upper body and its rotation. Your legs are the essential base that supports all of the power in your upper body. Good posture alignment is important to allow maximum flexibility of your joints while allowing maximum efficiency of your muscles. Improving your posture will help you maintain a swing that's stabilised by good balance. At address, you're balanced with your weight evenly distributed between your feet and the middle of your arches. When you begin a backswing, moving your upper body to the trail side, assuming you're right-handed, the trail side is the golfer's right side, causes your weight to transfer to that side. You initiate a forward swing by moving your hips, then your shoulders towards the target side. When you make contact with the ball, your swing should be close to your initial balanced address position or slightly to the target side of centre. That way you have a stable base of support for the dynamic movement of your pelvis, spine, trunk, shoulders, arms and club head. As your centre of gravity shifts, your body rotates over the target side hip to a balanced finish that works to maintain good posture. Now, as I've said before, your golf swing is an athletic movement and therefore it's an action that's easier for some people to develop more than others. Teaching professionals have discovered over the years that it is sometimes helpful to compare elements of the swing with other sports. In this case, where you're trying to coordinate the weight shift of your lower body with the rotation of your upper body and the swinging of your arms, a good analogy is the motion used to skip a flat stone across the water, something almost every one of us has done at some time or the other. Close your eyes and try to visualize the throwing motion of skipping stones. After you've done that, go ahead and make the throwing motion as you watch your reflection in a mirror. Now, pay careful attention to the sequence of motions that your body performs without any conscious thought. First, you naturally stand at a right angle to the target, just as you do in the golf swing. As you draw your arm back, notice that your weight easily shifts to your back foot, coming to rest momentarily with a high percentage of your weight over the back foot by the time your arm is fully hinged. At that point, your hips will slide forward and your throwing elbow will naturally tuck into the side of your body just above your hip. Your arm then automatically extends as it accelerates towards the target. Also notice at this point that your weight has almost fully shifted to the target foot and your hips and upper body have rotated to a point where your belt buckle is facing either the target or at a point past the target. It's this rotation that clears the way for your arm to pick up speed. Finally, After you release the stone, notice how your arm naturally extends towards the target before following the rotation of your upper body. The point of this exercise is that your arm picks up speed and passes your body before you ever release the stone. Now perform this exercise several times and then slowly lower your throwing hand until it's in the same position as it is in the golf swing. Now simply repeat the throwing motion as if you were throwing to where the ball is sitting on the ground. With any luck at all, you'll discover not only the proper weight shift I've been talking about, but you'll also have established a very, very solid yet incredibly simple foundation to a good golf swing. The swing plane is an imaginary flat, thin surface that is used to describe the path and angle on which you swing the club. The plane has inclination or tilt, determined by the club shaft as well as direction inside, down the line or outside. The arc and path that the golf club draws around you from first motion to finish creates the plane of the golf swing for that particular shot. The goal of your swing is to return the club to the impact position at or close to the club's original lie angle. The impact position is the position you're in when your club face actually makes contact with the ball. The swing plane controls the path of the club head into the ball. A flatter swing tends to deliver the club head on a more pronounced path from inside the target line to the ball and therefore tends to promote a hooking or right to left ball flight. An upright swing, on the other hand, tends to deliver the club head to the ball more directly, straight down the target line. Now, as a general rule, a flatter swing tends to be more repeatable and therefore more consistent, simply because your arms and especially your right elbow tend to remain closer to your body on the backswing. Now, the golf swing has evolved over the years as players on average become taller and stronger, and more importantly, the equipment has changed as well. With the development of steel shafts in the 30s, the swing evolved into what became known as a one-piece takeaway, popularised by players such as Iron Byron Nelson and Slammin' Sammy Snead. Now, in order to get the wrist hinge position, place your hands on the grip as if they're in a holster. As your arms and upper body swing the club back, your wrists will hinge naturally as the club reaches a more vertical position in your swing. Correct hinging along with proper body tilt helps to ensure that your club is routed on a proper path during the downswing. To develop a better feel for when and how your wrists should hinge during the swing, I'll guide you through a series of steps. Now firstly, assume your address position. Hinge your wrists so the club moves at an angle in line with your trail arm. Elevate your arms until your hands are shoulder high. The club will be pointing over your trail shoulder and your arms will have made their backswing motion. Now practice this from the address position. This is the arm motion that you will blend with your body turn. After you elevate your arms, the hinging of your wrists will happen as your arms elevate and your trail elbow folds. When you hear people talk about releasing the club, they're referring to releasing the energy and the power they've stored up in the process of making a backswing. As your body slides laterally and rotates towards the target on the downswing, your wrists unhinge, your forearms rotate and your trail arm straightens as you move the club through the hitting area. Now when releasing the club, your body is simply mirroring the movements it made on the backswing as you reach your impact position. At impact, your body has more tilt to the trail side and your arms extend past the ball. To feel the proper release in the downswing, try this exercise. Now place a ball on the ground in front of you. Put a golf ball in your trail hand and get into your address position. Swing back to the top of your swing and as you go forward, throw the ball you're holding at the ball on the ground. Now when practicing, try and replicate this throwing motion and this should assist you with your downswing. Your golf swing is a series of movements designed to do just one thing. That's deliver the club head to the ball in a manner that gives you the distance and direction you desire with the most consistency. Now to do this, your movements must take place in an order that's both logical and repeatable. The timing of your golf swing is very different from the tempo of your swing, although people often mistakenly use the terms interchangeably. Timing is the pace and sequence of movement in your swing, whereas tempo is the rhythm and speed in which your timing occurs. And while the timing or sequence of your swing is generally agreed upon, the tempo is a matter of your individual preference, which is one reason that faster players detest slow play. They know it wreaks havoc on their games because it throws them off their rhythm. Although a good tempo is beneficial, timing is clearly more important. A good tempo can occasionally salvage a shot when a player's timing is out of sync, but only every so often. Eventually, the odds of poor timing will catch up with you. Now, often a simple image is all it takes for a golfer to grasp what seems to be a complicated element of the golf swing. One such image is getting your hands and club into the slot at the top of the backswing, just as your body begins its lateral slide toward the target at the beginning of the downswing. Now, to find the slot, start moving the club forward by tilting your torso towards the target. The target hip will withdraw just as the trail hip does in the backswing. Transfer your pressure onto your lead foot. This movement isn't a weight shift, only a transfer of pressure from your back foot to your front foot. Now start moving into the forward swing by bringing your arms down. Remember that at this early stage of the forward swing, your arms move down more than they move forward. At this point, only your target hip is active. The trail hip more or less stays back. It doesn't rotate yet, storing power for the time when it will rotate through the impact of your swing. Check to make sure that your trail side has more of a tilt than it did at address. This tilt happens early in the forward swing and is known as slotting the club. If you trace the path the club head travels in the course of a swing, you'll see that it is fundamentally circular, although the path does flatten by necessity as the club passes through the contact area with the ball. Therefore, the longer and wider you make the arc of your swing, the more power you can generate in your swing. To achieve the maximum controllable distance and power in your golf swing, you want to reach what's known as the maximum leverage point. That's the position where the butt end of the club is as far as it can be from the ball while still swinging in balance. The heart of the phrase, maximum leverage point, is crucial because power without control does more harm than good in your golf swing. Quite by accident, you will reach the maximum leverage point in your swing. The point generally occurs when you're trying to hit a layup shot. You swing more easily than you normally do, which certainly helps improve your chances of making solid contact, but since you're not striving for distance, you make a swing that, while long enough, isn't so long that you can't control it, which is often the case when you have a driver, fairway wood, or long iron in your hands. A layup is when you aim to hit the ball to a good position short of the green so that you can ultimately play an easier shot. Here are 3 points to keep in mind when you're trying to make a swing that takes full advantage of this maximum leverage point. You must maintain the forward spine angle you establish at address throughout your swing. Doing so gives you a constant point to swing around. At the top of your backswing, make sure that your shoulders are turned 90 degrees to your target line. Having this amount of shoulder turn gives your arms and club a direct path to the ball. To test this, place a club parallel to your target line, near your toes. Hold a second club so it rests along your upper chest and your shoulders. Assume your address position again, stressing that you bend from the waist and your spine angle remains constant, and turn your upper body toward the trail side until the shaft is at a 90-degree angle. Now you may find that you need to either open or close your stance slightly to achieve this optimum 90-degree shoulder turn, which makes this an excellent drill to work on for practice at home. The trail arm must retain its relationship to the trail shoulder as the arm folds on the backswing. To achieve this position, hold both arms straight out in front of your sternum or breastbone. Then, without consciously turning your upper body, move your target arm towards your trail side until you feel the muscles in your chest tighten into a locked position. This point varies depending on your flexibility, of course. The point your left arm reaches in relation to your shoulder will be the optimum position for your arms in the backswing. Now, going past this point will cause you to alter your spine position or bend your lead elbow. A long swing will lead to inconsistency, while one that's too short won't allow you to effectively use the leverage of your arms and upper body. If your backswing is too short, you'll tend to hit at the ball rather than swing through the hitting area. In fact, when you're just learning to play golf, you should teach your body the correct motions for developing an accurate and powerful swing by starting with the short swing. Trying to learn the full swing first makes it much more difficult for you to learn the correct muscle coordination that the full swing requires. All golfers making a full swing at the ball should rotate their upper body in their backswing 90 degrees from the target line. In reality, most golfers won't achieve a 90-degree rotation because they either aren't flexible enough or they don't play and practice enough. Remember the exercise we did earlier when we placed a golf club on the ground along the target line? Well, the position you want to address is the parallel line in which the feet, hips and shoulders form a line parallel to the target line. Now, by keeping your eyes on your goal, you're sending target information to your brain and letting your body instinctively respond to that data. We all have athletic instincts, and one of our instincts is to line ourselves up correctly to hit a ball toward a target as long as our focus is on the target. At this stage, you're ready for some basic fundamentals to refer to in order to ensure that your setup and backswing are as effective as they can be. Now, widen your stance so that the width measured from the centre of your feet is that of the outside of your shoulders. The width is less as the club, in this case the driver, gets shorter so that your ankles are under your shoulder joints. Close your stance a little with your trail foot pulled back a little more from the target line than your target foot is. Doing this is important, especially if you're not very flexible. You can do this with all clubs, even your wedge. It makes rotating your upper trunk to 90 degrees that much easier. Make sure that the center of your chest, the sternum, points directly at the ball so that your trail arm can move effectively, staying below your target arm. To achieve optimal balance, distribute your weight from the balls of your feet to your heels, not from the balls of your feet out to your toes. Put some flex in your knees so that you can use your joints properly. Kind of sit back with your rump out behind you in what I like to call a balanced position. Okay, now that you've set up, you're ready to focus on your backswing. You start the backswing by moving your trail hip back over your trail heel. Otherwise, if you start the action by moving your hands, you'll move the club too much to the inside. By the same token, remember that your arms go where your shoulders take them, so that in effect, whatever way you move creates your swing plane. At the top of your backswing, the butt of your grip should be as far from the ball as possible. Your trail arm is below the target arm when the club starts back, then it folds and your wrists hinge. You start moving the club forward by tilting your torso toward the target. The lead hip is effectively withdrawn, just as the trail hip was in the backswing. Again, you only transfer pressure to the lead foot. In the earliest stage of the forward swing, the arms come down more than they move forward. Only your target hip is active at this point. Your trail hip more or less stays back. It doesn't rotate yet, therefore storing power for the moment when it does rotate through impact. By swinging your arms down and holding back your trail hip's rotation, you avoid hitting the ball from the top. Your trail arm continues to extend past impact and is extended fully only when it's past the ball. If you keep your right hip back early in the forward swing, it allows you to achieve a very strong motion through impact, which will assist you with the force of the shot. When it comes to hitting irons, in general terms, your swing remains the same regardless of what club is in your hand. The only factor that may change is where the ball is positioned in relation to your feet. A very important factor in striking the ball solidly and consistently with your irons is getting the bottom of your swing in front of the ball, which is the lowest spot in your swing's arc on the target side of the ball. By doing this, you'll contact the ball and not the ground. If you're like 99% of all golfers, regularly being able to hit your driver well will bring you way more satisfaction than hitting any other club consistently well. Put a tee in the ground, sticking up approximately 1.5 inches. Forget the ball. Now strike the tee consistently without hitting or even brushing the ground at all. Remember, the longer the club, the more precise you need to be. Practice this exercise until you can consistently clip the tee without touching the ground or even the grass. Once you make quality contact, the results you get from your shots becomes meaningful. Then you can work on directional control. The short game. The most reliable shot is the chip and run. In fact, I would estimate that I would play at least 95% of my short game shots with a chip and run and the other 5% with putts from off the green. Or a pitch, which is a short high approach shot, and bunker shots, which are shots played out of the sand. Putt whenever feasible, meaning the ball will roll rather than bounce. And chip and run when you can't putt. Pitch only when you have no choice. Getting the ball out of a bunker can be very daunting to an amateur golfer. But fixing the problem is simple. The positioning of your stance is vital to playing a successful bunker shot. Open your stance by pulling your left foot back. Then using your sand wedge, open the face so it's almost pointing straight up to the sky. Make sure that the ball is positioned forward in your stance and toward your left heel. You want to feel as if your club will go right under the ball when you swing at it. Remember that you don't want the club to touch the sand before you hit the ball. You're in a hazard, and that's a two-shot penalty. I feel one of the most important things in playing a bunker shot is to hinge your left wrist on takeaway. Now your aim should be to hit the sand about a credit card length behind the ball. Swing at about 80% at full speed and let the club head throw a scoop of sand onto the green. Forget the ball, all you're trying to do is throw the sand out of the bunker. The more sand you throw, the shorter your shot will be. So if you need to hit the shot a fair distance, you take less sand. Unfortunately, not every line of bunker is perfect. Sometimes the ball plugs or embeds itself in the sand, so that only part of it is showing. When this happens, keep your stance open, but this time, don't open the club face. Instead, keep the club face a little hooded. In other words, align the club face to the left of your target. Now shift nearly all of your weight to the left side, which puts you ahead of your shot. Also, be sure that the ball is placed back in your stance. Hit straight down on the sand about 2 inches behind the ball. A follow-through isn't needed here, just hit down hard. The ball should pop up and then run to the hole. Since you won't have any backspin on the ball, allow for the ball to roll to the hole. Finally, always smooth out your footprints when leaving a bunker. If there's no bunker rake around, just use your feet or your golf club. Jack Nicklaus, again considered by many to be the greatest golfer of all time, once said that nearly every professional golf tournament is won by the best putter that week. If you're going to play a round of golf in a regulation score of par, at least 50% of your strokes will be putts, as even a par 3 allows 2 putts as its regulation amount. Despite this, as a novice golfer, you're probably thinking that you should spend significantly less time on honing your putting skills and significantly more time on learning how to hit your driver and long irons. In my opinion, the opposite is true. In fact, you should be spending more time practicing with your putter in your hands than any other club. A 1 metre putt counts for exactly the same on the scorecard as a 250 metre drive. To putt successfully, you need to be in the correct posture position. Follow along with me as I walk you through several steps for getting the right position. Bend over from your waist so that your arms hang straight down. This stance allows your arms to swing in a pendulum motion, back and forth from a fixed point. Now, stand up straight and tall as you hold your arms straight out in front of your body. Bend from your waist, keeping your arms outstretched until they point to the ground. Flex your knees slightly. If you lock your knees in a straight position, you'll strain your back too much. Don't bend your knees too much though. Now you're in the correct putting posture. When it comes to how you stand to hit a putt, you can break a lot of rules. Ben Crenshaw, 2-time Masters champion, one of the greatest putters of all time, he stands open to the target line, his left foot drawn back. But South African legend Gary Player, he does the opposite. He sets up closed, his right foot farther back from the target line than his left. But that's their style. Other players prefer a square stance. Your toe stance line, or where your feet and toes point, should always be parallel to your target line. Be aware that the target line isn't always straight line from the ball to the hole, if only putting were that simple. Unfortunately, greens are rarely flat, so putts break or bend either from the right to the left or from the left to the right. So sometimes you're going to be aiming, say, 6 inches to the right of the hole, and other times maybe 1.5 feet to the left. Whatever you decide, your toe stance line must always be parallel to your target line, which is not always the hole. Being parallel to your target line is important because, in effect, every putt you make is straight. Applying a curve to your putts is way too complicated and affects your stroke. Imagine how you'd have to adjust if you aimed at the hole and then tried to push the ball out to the right because of a slope on the green. You'd have no way to be consistent. Keep putting simple. Remember, on curved putts, aim your feet parallel to the target line you've chosen, not to the hole. Okay, now what about the width of your stance? You do have a margin for error here, but as a guide, your heels need to be approximately shoulder width apart at address. You might prefer a wider stance for longer putts and a narrower stance for shorter putts. It's really a matter of what's comfortable for you. You have to bend over to put the putter behind the ball. So how far should you bend? Far enough so that if you drew a line from your eyes to the ball, your eyes would be directly over the ball. To find out how this position feels, lean your head back, place a ball on your forehead between your eyes, then bend over and let the ball drop. Where the ball hits the ground is where the ball should be in relation to your body. The ball shouldn't be to the inside, the outside, behind, or in front of that point. The ball should be right there, dead center. Getting into this alignment places your eyes not just over the ball, but also over the line that you want the ball to travel. Often players just miss putts not because they've pulled or pushed the ball, but because they're not aligned properly visually, meaning their eyes were slightly outside or inside of the ball's placement. Another crucial element of the putting equation is reading the break. The break is the amount a putt moves from right to left or left to right on the green. Slope, topographical features such as water and mountains, the grain of the grass, and perhaps most important, how hard you hit the ball dictate the break. The firmer you hit a putt, the less the ball bends or breaks on even the steepest gradient. So don't be fooled into thinking that there's only one way a putt can be holed. On say a 20-footer, you probably have about 5 possibilities. How hard you hit the ball is one factor. Anyway, the first thing you want to do when you arrive at a golf course is find out the natural slope of the terrain. If mountains are in the area, finding the natural slope is easy. Say that the mountains are off on your right on the first hole, then any slope is going to be from right to left on that hole. In fact, the slope on every green will be from the mountain, so take that into account on every putt you hit. There are endless details and theories about putting, but if you turn some of the following concepts into habits, you'll have come a long way toward being a consistently good putter. Here are some basic fundamentals for you to practice. If you constantly employ these fundamentals, you'll be well on the way to consistent putting. Make sure your weight is positioned over the middle of your feet. If your weight is either forward of your toes or back on your heels, your stroke is likely to follow the direction your weight is tilted rather than the target line. Keep the pressure in your hands soft and constant throughout the stroke. Sensitivity is obviously a huge part of putting. If your hands are tight on the grip, you diminish your sensitivity. Also, if you change the pressure of your grip during the stroke, you're probably not going to end up with a stroke, but more likely a jab, flinch, spasm, push, hit, well, you understand. Best of luck. Be careful not to move your hands independent of your arms and shoulders. In other words, avoid moving your hands while keeping your arms and shoulders stiff. Now, it's generally accepted that you're a bad putter only if you have 36 putts or more, but better players have about 32 putts around. This then should be your goal, a goal which you should continually be monitoring and striving for. You should grip the putter in the palm of your hand to reduce the amount of movement your hands must make. You are far better off relying on the rocking of your shoulders to create momentum in the putter head rather than creating momentum through your hands. Not all putting grips are the same, but what they all have in common is that the palms of both their hands face each other, so your hands can work together in the stroke. Your hands can join together in one of two ways. You start this grip by placing your palms on the opposite sides of the grip. Slide your right hand down a little so that you can place both hands on the club. Then, place your index finger over the little finger of your right hand. The reverse overlap grip is the most commonly used putting grip on all the professional tours. This is commonly referred to as the cross-handed method. The left hand hangs below the right with a putter, or vice versa if you're a lefty. It is used by many players today because it helps stop the lead hand, the left hand in this case, from bending at the wrist as you hit the ball. Because you do not want the ball to travel too far, the stroke has to be equally short. On a short putt, you do not want the putter head to move inside or outside the target line on the way back. So think straight back and straight through. If you keep the putter face looking directly at the hole throughout the stroke and you are set up squarely, you will make more putts than you will miss. Lay a 4x2 piece of wood on the ground. Place the toe of your putter against the board, then move the putter back and through. This gives you an idea of how a short putt should feel. Long putts are a test of feel for pace, nothing more. The last thing that I want you thinking about over a 12-metre putt is how far back you should take the putter or what path the putter will follow. Instead, focus on smoothness, rhythm and timing. No doubt, all Australian golfers would love to tee it up at Royal Melbourne, New South Wales, Kingston Heath, or indeed here at the National. However, as a beginner, playing at a course more conducive to your ability is much more important than playing on famous golf courses. Australia has one of the highest public golf courses per capita rates in the world. However, there is no shortage of 9 or 18-hole public courses that can be played on for as little as it costs to go to the movies. Now, when you're ready to tackle a golf course for the first time, 9 holes a local course, ideally midweek when it's less busy or more relaxed, is the way to go. Check for golf courses in the yellow pages. The rules of golf were laid down by the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers in Leith in approximately 1744. The famous Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews is the governing body that continues to set the rules and standards for the world's golfers to this day. Whilst it's natural for many social games of golf to incorporate a degree of flexibility when it comes to the rules, I highly recommend that you have a copy of the rules in your possession when you play on a course. Doing so can help you avoid any arguments along the way. Golf is a social game that follows a strict code of ethics and requires that you behave well in a social situation. Practicing good manners will make you more comfortable, regardless of how well you play. Some examples of etiquette as stated by the Royal and Ancient include: ensure that no one is standing close by or in a position to be hit by your club or ball, or any stones, pebbles, twigs, or the like which may be moved by your stroke or swing. Always check prior to playing a stroke or making a practice swing. If you have the honour, meaning that you have won the previous hole, you're allowed to play before your opponent or fellow competitor tees up their ball. Do not move, talk, or stand close to or directly behind the ball or the hole when a player is addressing the ball or making a stroke. No player should play until the players in front are out of range. In the interest of all, you'll want to play without delay. If you believe your ball may be lost outside a water hazard or out of bounds, to save time, play a provisional ball. And when you've completed playing a hole, be sure to immediately leave the putting green. Before you leave a bunker, carefully smooth over all holes and footprints. Please ensure that any divot hole made by you and any damage to the putting green made by your ball is carefully repaired. Also, when all players in your group have completed the hole, repair any damage to the putting green caused by your golf shoe spikes. When laying down bags or the flagstick, don't damage the putting green or the hole by standing close to it. Mishandling the flagstick or in removing the ball from the hole. Properly replace the flagstick in the hole before you leave the putting green. And be sure not to damage the putting green by leaning on your putters, particularly when removing your ball from the hole. In taking practice swings, avoid damaging the course, particularly the tees, and enjoy your game. Now, when you can hit the golf ball consistently and correctly, you're ready for the golf course. Human nature says, I want to go play golf straight away. Trust me, hit the practice fairway, the chipping green and the putting green. It will raise your game, then you're ready to play golf on the golf course. Have a great golfing day.